Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this uh, talk with incredible vocalist and songwriter, composer, percussionist, musicologist from Cuba. She's a Miami-based Cuban vocalist, singer, composer, and musicologist. And she's been touring around the world, and she wrote a bunch of stuff about music, and she'll be talking about the Cuban music and a tribute to Cuban music. Diosa y Fe. Please, let's welcome Miss Jessy Diaz. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's an honor and having the opportunity to share music from my hometown, from my country is always, something that I really appreciate. So thank you for giving me this chance to share the music of my album, which is music from Cuba, of course. So I would like to talk a little bit about the name of my album, Diosa y Fe. It means goddess and faith. And these are two aspects from Cuba that are very connected, given that we as a population are very religious, and not only in terms of Afro-Cuban religions, but everything related to Catholicism and Christianism also. And everything is mixed. So constantly you're going to be hearing that I go back and forth about religion because I grew up that way, like embracing all religions and learning about all of them at the same time. So this is my album, Diosa y Fe, a tribute to, oops, let me see how I do it, to Cuban music. Uh, This album is a result of the first, let's say, 4 years that I was living in Miami. There were a lot of people that approached me and say, well, you sound like Celia Cruz. You should play more of her music. And at first, I didn't identify that pattern that similarities that they heard. But then after a while, I decided to learn more about Celia Cruz and learn more about what she did while she was in Cuba, and then I realized that beyond my voice, that has a couple similarities, they found like a sound, like a way to approach music, a common way to sing the song, the genre. And that's why they say that I sounded like her.
Mhm.
I learned a lot about her life in Cuba, her life with the Sonora Matancera when she started singing, the uh, great amount of music that she used to sing, not only the song that we know right now, the more popular. No, she recorded so many albums with interesting approaches because it was not only about Cuba, it was about Caribbean music. And while I was discovering this, I was considering to release my first album. But at this point, I was not focused on that. I was also finishing my first master degree by that time, which I did based on the music of Miguel Failde. He was the creator of danzón. So I was working in Miami, living here, but finishing my master, which I started in Cuba, and talking to a lot of musicologists about how to continue and how to finish that work. Because when I was in Cuba, I used to play with an orchestra that is called Miguel Failde, and of course, this orchestra, the main genre that we play was danzón. So even though I was here, I said, well, I have a commitment. I'm committed to finish this work that I started, because one thing about the Miguel Failde Orchestra, which is playing nowadays, we barely have down song in our repertoire. So I was trying to put together like a catalog with scores that we can play. They can play as an orchestra. That was one of the main things that uh made me like uh do this album. Like Matanzas, all the nostalgia that I was feeling during those first years living here. Also, as some of you know, matanzas means rumba, means song. Cuban song means a lot of Afro-Cuban religions because you can hear like guido, you can hear bata drums. I grew up in the Alturas, the Simpson, which is a neighborhood where all of these traditions are very, very popular. And also, one thing is that by my house, like 1 block away, Pedro Knight's daughter used to live. And Pedro Knight was Celia Cruz's husband. And nobody at this point was interested in know more about that story. So I said, well, I'm from Matanzas. People are telling me that I have like the sound of Celia Cruz. I am a musicologist and percussionist, so all about information and research is very interesting. I really enjoy learning, and I couldn't imagine at that point that my grandma knew Pedro Knight and knew his daughter. So I said, well, I have to learn more about this story. And I was talking to a friend. Her name is Jamila Puro Feeling. She lives in Spain. She's a journalist, writer, and a great singer. We met through YouTube because she started watching some videos of myself performing, and then we started, uh, talking about music, and she became my piano student. But she told me, you should do an album. You should do like show yourself, as an artist that is able to combine all of this knowledge and all of this culture that you bring yourself from your hometown. So these are some of the reasons behind the album. And of course, once I was living here in the States and I moved to Atlanta, I first came to Miami, then went to Atlanta to do my master in jazz studies. That was like the closure of that, that idea of that I have to do my album. I have to put together something that represents me as an artist, as a Cuban. So that's what I did. Let me continue. Yeah. Then I was telling myself, well, what is the repertoire? Sorry for the E, the bottom. What is the repertoire that I want to highlight? I want to do like my own songs, or I want to start with music that is already known. And when I say known, this is funny, but when we were in the recording studio, the musicians, great musicians out of them, they didn't know that the music, the way they were recording was written in the 1930s, 1940s, and was played by Celia Cruz and Sonora Matancera. So I used that opportunity also to let them know about a different Celia Cruz, about the Sonora Matancera and a type of sound, like a specific sound from my hometown that they didn't recognize at all. They didn't know the lyrics, they didn't know the music. So yes, of course, I said, well, I'm gonna do it. And also during my time in school, I was trying to see how much Cuban people, like the different generations, know about this music, this repertoire that was already played a lot, that have 2 albums recorded in the 1960s, I believe, and they didn't know anything at all. So I said, well, let me share this because also the music that I was showcasing was a tribute to the Afro-Cuban religion. So these 8 songs that you're seeing here are part of the some of the goddess and the gods from the Afro-Cuban religion. And I grew up with this. In my house, we cultivate the relations. We learn to listen to this music because I was in the center of, in a neighborhood where that was part of the daily life. And that is why I said, well, this is my opportunity to tribute my hometown, to tribute Sonora Matancera, which is one of the greatest bands, music band from Cuba. And of course, having the opportunity to continue the all the legacy of Celia Cruz is always like a big honor. These songs have you know here I'm showing a very important person that I was working with during this project, and he's Ephraim Shivas Wilson. He used to be the piano player of Bam Bam. Right now, he's based in Miami. We studied together in Cuba because I met him when I was studying at the University of Arts in Havana. And a friend of mine, a great friend of mine, told me, well, if you want to put together a project that have that sound that you're looking for, that is a is going to be a tribute, like honoring the past, but something that shows yourself that you are studying the jazz right now, you love Horace Silver music, you love all about arranging. And that was a time where I was very into learning all the jazz standards, because this is something that I also want to add. uh it was a really hard experience for me to go into college in the States. Why? Even though I had a lot of experience previous, like studying in Cuba, we don't study jazz in the school. All the great musicians that you might know, of course, Shusho about this, they didn't study in school. They learn most of this music by themselves, self-taught, or they have like private teachers. But you don't have a program like you have in, let's say, in other instruments. You have a program that teach you how to become a jazz player. They don't, in the school in Cuba right now, they don't give you those tools. So that is something that you have to acquire by yourself. Reading, exchanging with another musicians, listening to a lot of recordings. And when I talked to Pasha about this project, I said, well, I'm learning a lot from scratch, because in Cuba, most of jazz is intuitive. You follow your intuition, you are always listening, so you know how to connect chords and like a progression, chord progressions. But it's not because you learn it in school, like a harmony class, like jazz harmony, like jazz composition. No. And I was having that at the moment that we met to decide how to put together this project. So he, as a musician, he's a piano player. He has a great background in song, and also working with different with dance projects, putting together suites, because he's also a composer. But he told me, I didn't know these songs. I didn't know about these songs. This is the first time in my life that I hear this repertoire. And so he was learning with me also. And then I told him, let's decide on the songs. Let's keep on, like the Cuban genres, because I need the bolero to be there. I need the yesa and makuta rhythms, which are rhythm from originally from Africa, that we inherited in Cuba. And in my hometown, the particular story with this is that my bachelor's degree in musicology, my dissertation, I did it about Ijesa. Ijesa is a subgroup from the Yoruba culture that is in the area of Nigeria also. But then some people from that culture, they went to Cuba, went to Matanzas in the 18th something, and that house with those original drums are still being played. The house is still having meetings every year, having celebrations on. They celebrate Oshun and Ogun, and that combination, yellow and green, are on the drums. Those four drums that they have, along with two bells too. And that was my dissertation. So I told Pasio, I need this to be there. I need this sound in my album. because I was in those celebrations so much. I recorded, I did transcription, so I was very connected to those people, and also they live behind the house where I was born. So I said, this is something that I need to be represented there. And in terms of instrumentation, we said let's use like small format. Let's go with the bass, like the rhythm section, and let's add at least one horn, or maybe let's do something more specific with like a string orchestra. Let's add some bata drums, because all of this is me. I really needed to feel myself on every song that I was listening. And Pacho was amazing, like capturing this aspect, these little ideas that I gave him. And also the musicians that he used for the recording were also the best of Cuba, the best of the, all the orchestra that are right now in the in trending, let's call it like that. Those are those were the musicians in my album, and I'm proud of that, because when I listen to that, I also listen to uh kids and people that were studying with me at the time that I was in college in Cuba, and some of them were even my students, because I was also a teacher in the ENA, a National School of Music. So there's a lot of stories that always come to my mind when I'm thinking about the musicians, thinking about the music itself. And the album is the way that I found to resume, to summarize all the things that I have learned uh as a woman, as a Latina, as an immigrant, but also about bringing your culture beyond, beyond your country, beyond, and that is the album. That's why I put woman, Latina, Afro-Cubana, singer, mother, because during all this time and how the album started was exactly, I went to record in to Cuba, and I my son wasn't born by that time. And then when I came back, I realized that I was pregnant, but I continued with the project, and I didn't stop doing anything that I was doing, finishing my master, living on my own during pregnancy, and also writing. So all of that is there. I released that this album in it was May 2023, May 12th. And it made me feel proud. It made me feel proud. And also this year that we're celebrating the centennial of Celia Cruz, uh I feel really proud of, having the opportunity to share this work, this hard work, because it was recorded in Cuba. I was here always in communication. By that time, my mom was in Cuba, and she was doing all the recording, like video recording. My best friend was in front of the team, and I believe we should listen to one of the songs. This is the song that opened all the process of the album Diosa y Fe. So I'm gonna try. Let's see if you can hear it. The name of the song is El Legua Quiere Tambo. El Legua is in the Afro-Cuban religion is the opener of all the roads. Let's call it like that. So I want to share this song with you. Let's see if you can hear it. Let me start from the very beginning. Señorita, como el agua al aire, porque siempre Y no soy su siempre estoy muy comprendida. Para yo cantar cantar Oh, yes, this was El Legua Quiere Tambo was the first song that I recorded. That the first version was recorded in 2020, at the end of 2020 during COVID, by the way. That was the time where I was in Cuba and they closed all the border and it was crazy to get back to Atlanta, but that was the song that opened, all the process. So and it was a good reception by the time I recorded it. So I decided to include it, of course, in the album. Here you can see some of the people that were involved in the process. To my left, you have my best friend, and she's also a musicologist. She's in Cuba. She's very into the jazz festivals and all that. Her name is Jessy Rangel, and she was in charge of putting all the production together in terms of locating the musicians that Pasha said were the appropriate for this job. And these three, this is Yesenia, Yeseva. She's also a singer. She was, by the time, she was a singer of Anacaona, one of the greatest female bands from Cuba. And this is Anthony and Roberto. They both, he used to sing with Manolito Simonen, and he used to sing with El Niño La Verdad by the time we record this song. Here you have Passion, and here you have the sound engineer. And we spent long time in the studio. It was 1 week of work, hard work. I went only the weekend. I went to Cuba to recording during the weekend, but during the whole week we were talking. And yes, these words, yes, I love the way it's sounding. And my mom was behind camera, so doing all the registering all the process. And I really want you to listen to this album because I cannot express in words the feelings that I have when I listen to the result. So please, this song now that I'm going to play is called Nuevo Ritmo o Melenco, and it talks about the mix of the bata drums and the congas, and how you can have like a more Caribbean sound. When you hear it, you realize what I'm talking about. Put it from the beginning one second. No one, not even WhatsApp, is coming now. Espera, primores, que aprende a bailar. Este nuevo ritmo, que lo tenemos. Este nuevo ritmo, que lo tenemos. So, Nuevo Ritmo o Melenco. That's the song that opens the album. When I put it together, like all the art and everything, I decided it was this song. And of course, you realize that the saxophone is also there. I love the saxophone. That's why I always try to use it. Some of the songs have trumpet also, and some of them have clarinet also. But saxophone is my favorite. So, uh, and that's it. I just want to thank you for listening to my story through this album, and of course, music is always up front. It's always leading all my way, you know. So I really feel grateful for being a musician, for learning all the things that I have learned during my journey, either in Cuba, my first 25 years I was there, living there, and then coming to the States. My journey has been amazing because I had the opportunity to meet a lot of people, to learn from a lot of sources, and that's what counts at the end of the day. That's what made me uh the person, the musician, you know the artist that I am today. A grateful person of what I have lived. So thank you, Gino, and that's it.
Yeah, Jessy, thanks a lot for your presentation. And we have a bunch of questions we would like to ask you about Cuban music, about the voice, first of all, and the voice of Celia Cruz. I think they are Dr. Fomacon or Dominique. Maybe they have some questions. I don't know. Before I start asking you some other stuff. Narcis, ¿tienes preguntas, Germán?
Sí, pero bueno, hablamos en inglés, ¿no?
En inglés, sí, sí.
Bueno, my English is not the best one, but I would like to try. So thank you very much, Jessy. I listen to you, and it's an opportunity for me to listen about a Cuban singer. So my question is I would like to know, when I was studying literature in Caribbean area, we used to observe that there is a kind of creolization or hybridity in literature as Edouard Glissant tried to present. I would like to know if is it the same case with music. Discovered that you are what you can say you are producing in different type of music in Cuba, but can you define yourself as your music as hybrids or creolized music? Thank you very much. I don't know, maybe if I cannot explain very well in English, maybe I can do it in Spanish, it will be better for me, but no, I hope you understand.
I understood. I understood.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing this question to my mind. Now that I think of it, I have never think of the music that I perform as an hybrid. More about Creole, the Creolization. That's the process that I believe I go through, and I've been going through the whole time because I'm always trying to connect with the roots of the Cuban music. Actually, every time that I'm going to put together a project, I always listen to a specific music, and it's always like music from long time ago, from Cuba. So definitely, I try to go to the origins of the process in Cuba, and I take that as the source of all the projects, that all the music that I'm going to develop after. And I wouldn't say hybrid because I really know I really have like a specific reference when I'm gonna put together a project. So yeah, definitely creolization is applies better to my music than the hybrid.
Okay, thank you, Gino. It
I
was my
play.
question just to know. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jessy. Yeah, I have a question. I mean, how can you define Celia Cruz's voice? How can you? What are
Hmm.
the specificities that you can find in her voice?
I remember when I was studying my musicology, there was a book. It was in Spanish is La binarización de los tiempos ternarios. In that book was explaining how in the African music the pitches are not the same per, a person I don't know listen the same way that I listen in the Occidental music, the Western music,
Mhm.
right? And at first I didn't hear any recording from African music, but then I had one of my teachers told me, well, listen to this. So you're going to understand why I'm telling you this, and you're reading that what is C for the Western is not C necessarily for the African music, and it's still right because for them it's like an area that you have to cover in terms of sound. It's not one sound by itself, no? And that's that I can what I can hear when I listen to Celia Cruz. And I understand the value of her music and her art as Afro-Cubana. So I would define her as a real example of what Afro-Cubana is, because you are not listening to like exact pitches. You are listening to the result of what she has, or the background what she has in Afro-Cuban music, because she used to sing in Yoruba. You can hear like little pieces of Yoruba in her singing. These original versions that I selected when I was putting my album together, they have part of the music that you can hear when you go to a celebration. In that environment, develop people and musicians that have a different sense of pitch. It happens in rumba, it happens in, of course, in conga, like popular music from Cuba. Something that is not like too elaborated, right? And that's what I can say about her voice. At first, I didn't understand it, but then I went deep, more in depth into her music, into her background, how she started, and the toques de santo. When how do I translate toques de santo? Like those Afro-Cuban celebrations that she used to perform are the music that she has. And when she's going to communicate a new music, she's always using the same tools. So yes, to me, she's the perfect example of the combination of the origins of Cuban music, where your sense of pitch is wide, and then when she get to to the to the real world, to the United States, and she has to adapt to the sound. Mhm. That's why she's a queen, definitely, because she's the better represent to me of how you go from your hometown to the world. You are an immigrant, but you adapt and you shine in the middle of that. So she's the best in terms of vocal, I believe.
Do you see anybody, I mean, equal to, I mean, to what she's doing? Someone similar nowadays, I mean, contemporary singers that you know from Afro-Cuban. Can you, I mean, besides you, of course, it looks like you sound like her, like people say. And do you feel like there are people, who are like in the same, how can I put it, like same vein, following the same path? I mean,
We Cuban women have mostly a similar background. Let's say we most of the singers grew up in very close to Solares or neighborhood They play music during the whole day, and that is a good background. But for me, Celia Cruz is not only about the voice, it's about she improvises.
Mhm.
The way she improvises, and it was very like new for her time. She's not only using the lyrics
Mhm.
of the song, she's also using the intonations from the rumba and from the distance, the intervals that she uses. So I don't think there's too many people that right now are singing in her style.
Mhm.
What people recognize, let's say my voice or any voice of Cuban woman, Cuban singers, are that we have that flavor. Because we all used to hear congas. We used to go to popular like celebrations, and maybe if you have like a higher voice or your voice is a little bit husky, maybe they that's why they say, oh, you sound like Celia Cruz, but it's a legacy, it's like a sound, un mundo sonoro is like a word of music that you bring from Cuba, but then when you put it together, it all comes from Celia Cruz. Even though in Cuba we couldn't hear her music, even today, it's not common that you don't hear Celia Cruz music on the radio. I don't know right now, but when I left Cuba like 8 years ago, you couldn't hear Celia Cruz music. And that's why it was a surprise for me that they say, no, you sound like Celia Cruz. I haven't heard Celia Cruz in my life. Maybe one song, two songs, but then that's why I understood. So we all are continuing the legacy in terms of the flavor, the rumba that is always in the way you relate it. But the way she used to sing, no, I don't believe there's anybody else that has that tone that can be husky, that can be really like metallic sometimes. That the stops, like the pause that she used to do when she was improvising, or the repetition of specific motifs when she was singing. Uh, no, 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 no. Even in the album that I listened a lot of times before deciding what song to use, I said, wow, look at this, this tool that she's using. And that's something interesting because in Cuba, they don't teach you how to sing popular music. So it's something that you grow up and you by yourself go, embodying and you listen and then you say, but you don't learn that in school. So it would be interesting that sometimes to share some of my notes when I was putting together this album, all the things that I learned in the process about her voice and things that are effective, because that's the other thing. The way she uses her voice was effective. She was trying to communicate certain emotions, either with phrases or just like long melismas. Some are resources that we don't realize we use them by intuition, because we have learned, we have heard music for a long time. When I say we, I'm talking about Cuban female vocalists, but we don't take the time to say, well, in this part of the song, let's use the voice this way. And I think by the time Celia was doing it, maybe she didn't analyze it like in a cold way, but at some point she knew how to do it. She knew how to build the story with like less voice, like at the beginning, then let's use like syncopated rhythms, those kind of things. That's why I said she's a master. Listening to one song from the bottom to the top can be one class of how a female singer can approach a song, or can approach like an Afro rhythm, or even a bolero. Her way to sing a bolero, the pauses in between, the way that she enlarged like one part of the word and then cut and then breathe and like yeah, she's unique.
So, anyone has a question? Dominique, Narcis, no?
No, I just listen because I take the conversation later, so I did not heard the beginning. I'm sorry.
So, what would you advise to give as an advice to any vocalist who want to be like follow your path as a vocalist and as a scholar also? What would you say?
Good question, because that's the other thing that it happens in Cuba and also happens here. When you are in college and you are a vocalist, if you don't have a background in music, the musicians don't see you the same way, don't look at you the same way. So they don't believe, even you're a great singer, they don't believe you're at the same level. So my advice is, number one, study. If you have the chance to study music, to learn the fundamentals, please do it, because that is going to help you. You don't need to say or show anybody that you are the same level, but for you, it's a tool when you are going to have a conversation in between musicians. If you can speak the same language, you are going to feel better with yourself. And this is a story, this part of that advice also, always studying, always learning. When I went to Georgia State here in Atlanta at first, and I say that I was studying voice, they didn't believe in me. They said, well, you are here just to sing. Even though I was in the composition class, jazz history, jazz harmony, and when they saw that I could play piano and do sight reading and write music, that is something that made a big difference. So to me, the first advice that I give to any female vocalist is please study as much as you can all the tradition. If you have like a reference, let's say if your reference is Celia Cruz, just listen to all her music, watch all the documentaries about her, read all the books that you can, so you have tools to build yourself as a continuation of the legacy, because you have to be a different artist, even though you show always respect by Celia Cruz or by Elena Burke or by Omar Portuondo, which are the reference that I have, no? Because we are talking today about this album and how I decided on the music. But when I first came to the state, I was not listening to Celia. I had another musicians, another greatest singer from my country, and they are the one that lead me to that way. Unbelievable, but it's like that. So studying is always the first thing that I recommend to everybody. Listening to music, reading books, continuously uh, giving you like tools to have a better way to communicate what you want to say. We cannot hear you. We cannot hear you. Your mic is.
Yeah. Narcis, you want to say something?
No, I wanted just to say that your microphone is off.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was going to ask you a question. Are you familiar with music from the African continent, for instance? I mean,
Not too much. Not too much. I was listening to there's a Cuban musician that lives between San Francisco and Europe. His name is Omar Sosa,
I know it's a friend of mine.
and he plays a lot with African musicians. So now, since I'm listening to his music more often, I'm also listening to African music, which is like a homework that I have for myself.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was going to ask you if you see some similarities between music from the African continent and Cuban, Afro-Cuban music. You see this like
I have to study more, but I remember when I was doing my dissertation that, and I was studying in college, that the bata drums,
mhm.
the first time that I saw the bata drum from Africa, I was surprised because they don't have the same size of the Cubans. The Cubans are bigger and they don't sound the same. And also, we used to watch videos of African, like African, like tribal music, and none. I'm not gonna say none of the rhythms of the patterns, but in the bata, they are more complex than the rhythm that we have on the batas in Cuba. Why? Of course, because all of the music they brought him in, on their head and their head, and also when people try to write to do transcription, they are gonna try to simplify to make it easy, no? But that's what I can remember. I really want to go back to those times where I was more into listening to African music, to have more of these examples, let's say, like the similarities, the differences. But that is something that I remember. Bata drums have not the same size. The patterns are not the same. The way they do the changes are not the same. And I'm talking from the percussion side because I'm percussionist and I love percussion. But yes, that's one thing.
How about the voice singing?
Yeah, in the voice is what I mentioned before. The sense of pitch, and also the pronunciation. Because, for instance, in the original words of some of the Yemaya and Shango chants, Aina, like fire, and some of the words, I remember watching or videos from Africa and then going to one of the celebrations in my hometown, and they were like mumbling the words here over there in Cuba. And when I asked them about the meaning, they didn't know the meaning. So in Cuba, sometimes most of the chants that they do are about repetition, are not about a deep knowledge of what you're saying. Your faith is beyond what you're saying, but still they don't know. They cannot translate because most of them don't know Yoruba. So that's a difference, the way they use the chants, the way they say the chants also.
Yeah, to get back to I mean, the question that maybe Dr. Famako asked the question or someone else. You were talking about the fact that, I mean, yes, it was me, about the fact that musicians might not respect someone who hasn't studied, but who is only a singer, vocalist, but voice is the first instrument, as we all know, right?
Exactly.
And they sing the way you sing. I mean, besides the fact that you've studied, So I think it's a concept. I don't know. I don't mean to say that like it's like a Western concept, but I think when it comes to music, it's not all about just reading or writing. It's about playing the music, understanding the culture. Yeah, some people back in villages where we can't even play with them because even though we're really skilled, we study a lot, but we can't understand what they're doing. It's deep. Maybe not, but at some point, I mean, I agree with you, but at the meantime, hay que tener una mezcla de
Yeah.
informaciones, because, yeah.
That was experience. That's something that I saw when I was in college.
Mm,
The way I didn't do it. I was not those type of students that, even being a musicologist, where we as a musicologist are like in our planet. The way you think, that's the way it is in Cuba, no? But I was also between musicians because I'm percussionist. I study both things. and the way they talk about singers was like something else. I said, well, and I've been a singer my whole time, but I decided to study voice when I was 27 years old.
No.
During the whole time, I took choir. Yes, I took like private lessons, but I didn't learn how to sing in school because my teacher, when I first started studying, told me, don't study voice, study something else. The voice is on you. You need another instrument.
So,
So she told me that, and I really appreciate it because it was a way to say open to the world. Don't say only with your voice. Go to different areas of yourself that you can explore and use once you are on stage. And being in this in college showed me that she was right, because sometimes I felt identified with the singers, but sometimes with the musicians. I have that. Mhm.
do you have like maybe Nancy, you have some question?
Sorry.
Nancy, do you have any question? I mean, Nancy's Dr. Flamenco.
Uh, I don't have, but when you ask about the if she know about the musician, the African music, say no. But when she was presenting, maybe she was not talking about the music that she did. I discovered that there was some musical Congo, something like this. But I had the impression that the origin of that type of music is from, if it's not from Africa, we can say at least that is from slaves that were in the Caribbean area. I don't know, but I know that in literature, there is very mixture. There are many things, or even languages, words that are coming from Africa, but I don't know very well in music. That is the reason why I'm a little bit lost, but I just want to know. So, but she said that it's not the case. But when she was presenting, I discovered some answer, and even the title of some music that she put, that I don't know. There was not the there was a list of music. I discovered the titles seem as being African languages in many ways. For instance, those title. Shango, all those things. But maybe I am mistaken. But in poetry and in literature, I discovered there were many words that was from Africa in the Caribbean literature. I don't know. So,
Yeah, Shango, Oya, Agaju, Yemaya,
yes.
Elewa, yeah, Oshun. Yes. And from Cuba, for instance, the person that lead my dissertation, her name is María Elena Vinuesa. She's originally from Ecuador, but she studied musicology in Cuba, and she studied one group that is called Arara. They came from Benin in Africa, and they then were based in Jovellanos, which is one of the cities near Matanzas, my hometown where I'm from. And she told me the drums are not the same. I went to Benin because she did that. She was one of these person that did that. She went to Africa, then went to Jovellanos and tried to find the similarities. So yes, there's a lot of things that are still ready to getting developed about the construction of the instruments, the sound of the instruments, the way the rhythm pattern is built itself. Because of course, when what we have in Cuba, uh, they didn't have real communication with Africa, so everything was in their heads. But still, those patterns were written, where we have transcription of the patterns what is the name of the book? I can put like a list of all the materials that I was using by the time, and there's one of them that is very important, was edited in the 1970s. It's called Atlas of the Folkloric Music of Cuba. And there you can find more about the connections between Africa and the Caribbean, and then Cuba, the specific region, the specific place. Because it was not only Benin, it was also the Calabar area where the
Yes,
Abacoa
in
came,
Nigeria.
Nigeria. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's very interesting. So I can put also a list of those books that were written in Cuba, because it was like a time where Argeliers León, he was the founder of the Cuban musicology, along with Fernando Ortiz. But then Argeliers León was into the academy and opened the career, the degree in Cuba. And all the dissertations, by the time he was leading the department, were about Afro-Cuban religions and Afro-Cuban houses, and Ijesa, Arara, Abacua, and what else, Guidos. There's a friend of mine that even did her dissertation about the violins. It's more about spiritual celebrations, but the violins, the cajones. Yeah, there's a lot. I can put a list together of like documentation and very.
That's great. Do you
Mhm.
think,
All right.
personally, do you think like there's a difference when you sing? Do you have a different technique when you sing in English or in Spanish? Does it differ? I mean, the way you're singing when you have to switch from a language to another one.
One thing that I learned while doing the master in jazz,
Mhm.
was that you don't need to use your full voice most of the time to communicate the emotions that you want to. Because in Cuban music, when you are singing song, for example, uh you try to do syncopations and like do the full voice, like the strength of your voice you want to share. You want to show like you're very skilled in all terms, like the strength of your voice, the way you manage the rhythm, the way you use the pitches. And then when I got I get to the masters, and I just say, they show me you have it. You don't always need to use it. In jazz, it's better that you know how to control of that, and the way you say and the pauses that you're gonna make. That you can use it also for Cuban music, but that's not the way you are trained to do it. So yes, when I'm going to sing like a jazz standards, or let's say, or like a up tempo in English, I always remember that class, when my teacher told me less is more. In terms of pronounce of I believe it's about the mission of the sound, what changes. But then after a while, I have learned how to use it from the jazz and bring it to my Cuban music. And yeah, it's been a learning experience.
And how about the language? I mean, I'm trying to understand. I mean, to see how the language can be impactful on your way of singing. Like let's say you sing in Spanish, and then the next day you have to sing in English or in Portuguese. I saw that we sing in Portuguese. I follow you. I know everything about. it is my daily job anyway. So, uh, well, how what can you say about this this situation?
I've been singing in English since I was in Cuba.
Mhm.
So to me, it's something natural. I don't think about it. When I went to the school, they told me, well, you have to uh, focus more on your pronunciation. But then I learned that what makes you unique is the way you say the words, because the background that you have is not the same that a person that used to live in, let's say, uh, Hawaii, for instance, or Japan. And as of now, I try to, and it's something that helps me to go from one language to the other one. I try to read in different languages. So when I have to switch, I'm ready. And I try to understand the story in the way the language is written. So I'm not translating anymore. I'm just connecting with the words in English so I can understand why I'm going to enlarge an O or an U more than any other part of in the different languages. Because interpretation goes also how you understand this word to me.
How about the combination between the sound of the drums that you play and your voice, your singing? Does it that influences? Is there any, like I was talking about the vínculos in Espanol, like, is there any link between your playing and your singing? Do you think when you look back, step back a little bit and think about it, you say that, okay, maybe it's impacting your singing or your voice is also impacting your playing? I don't know. You play the vibes, you play the drums. See what I mean?
About that, I can say that once I'm on stage, for instance, and it has always happened, what I listen to the most is the percussion instruments. So when I'm improvising, which is a part of the song, when you have the opportunity to reply, with the instruments, I'm always trying to include some elements of the rhythm pattern in my voice. As of now, it's something natural, but there's some moments, like some parts of the show, when I want the whole band to do like a specific pattern with my singing, and it's because instead of starting voice from the very beginning, I started percussion. So I'm always, and that's something that I learned how to control also, because when you have when you have a rhythm pattern, you're gonna have accents, and you cannot sing a whole song with a lot of accents, because if not, you're not gonna be able to communicate a word. So that is something that I use, but I also control, given that I'm percussionist, and my ears are always following the percussion pattern. And since I'm in the front and all these songs, you know, I'm always looking back. Even in the show, it's part of me, It's part of my nature to be looking the percussionist, and yeah. But I have learned how to manage, find a balance between singing with like let's call it like a right way to communicate the story, and also adding those little syncopation, because that's the way I grew up, with syncopation, with rumba. So it's there, but I know how to use it. And I wish I would learn this at first, because at first I was experimenting, but then after a while I said, well, now I'm ready. Now I'm ready to include it and don't sound like I'm pushing too much. No, no, no. I'm a percussionist, but I can always, yeah, yeah.
Yes. Any question? Anybody? Okay. Thank you so much, Jessy.
My pleasure.
It's a pleasure. I hope we have a chance to explore more and to talk about it, and mainly focus. By focusing mostly on the voice. Just to understand. I'm trying to understand, like anybody, new stuff, new ways of singing, the impact of the culture, the in your singing, and the impact of people who've been listening since your early years. Uh, so your travelings. Is it? The last question I might ask, like, do you think your travelings around the world, like you're going to France next month or in a couple of days, I don't know, is it going to impact? Has an influence in your singing, in your practice? The way you perform, or making music, creating music. Do you think it has something to do, or you just like you said, I'm Afro-Cuban, I'm doing my thing, that's it?
No, no, no. I'm not hermetic at all. Actually, in the last times, and the last Nowadays, I'm trying to use more Afro beats into my music because all what I have done before is Cuban music, like songs, cha-cha-cha, danzón, mambo, bolero, yes. But now, uh, I understand that if you want to integrate, if you want to be part of a bigger, bigger like crowd, a bigger group of musicians, and you need to connect in different ways. It's not all, and it's not only about Cuban music through Cuban music. So I really hope that this experience that I'm going to have, I'm going to friends from to a festival that is called Festival Solo Son Cuba, and it's gonna be the first edition of this festival. It's mainly about dancing, but there's gonna be two shows. The first one is gonna be Septeto Santiaguero, which is one of the greatest bands from Cuba that plays son cubano, Cuban song, and they have Latin Grammys and everything. And the second is gonna be my show. Of course, I'm going to be singing this album that you just heard about, along with another songs that I love from the Cuban repertoire. But I really hope that this experience open up to a new, to a new way for me to connect with the music, because to me it's about that. How can you connect? How can you continue growing up, developing yourself as an artist, as a singer, you know? And I have never, for instance, I have never sung in French, but it's another experience that I would like to explore at some point. It's gonna be interesting learning a new language, learning a the way they do inflections. Yeah, I really hope it happens. It's gonna happen. I'm very open to new words in terms of music and in terms of cultures in general. I love culture.
And academically, I'm thinking about writing some books. I mean, about singing, about the music from Cuba. Yeah,
Mm,
mine.
yeah, I have, as I told you, I have the notes of when I was listening to Celia, like doing like a summarizing those skills that she has that are very distinctive in terms of interpretation. I I'm gonna have to go back to that. That is an interesting document because as of now, to tell you, they don't study in Cuba right now. They study like opera a lot, like choral singing, but popular singing, how to sing danzonete, how to sing bolero. There's a lady that is also Cuban, but she was living in Spain for a long time. She's one of the greatest vocalists, and she has taught some workshops about the voice in Cuban music. Her name is Gema Corredera. We were talking last week, and I told her that is something that you need to share, because there's no documents about Cuban how to sing Cuban music. That document for itself doesn't exist. You have like some essays, but there some of them might be in one preview that is called, what's the name? Clave. That's the name is the name of that publication they have in Cuba. But you don't have one book that talks about that. No. Even having the Bolero Festival, I know that. Mm-mm. So thank you for telling me that. I'm gonna think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we keep in touch. Anyway, we hope to have you back here to present some other topics.
Cool.
Thank you
Gonna-
so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Dominique. Thank you, Narcis.
Thank you.
Yeah, we talk soon. We talk soon anyway. And
All right.
good luck with your new city, new project, and have a nice tour in Europe. And come back safe. Come back to New York.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank you.